Yay, mean people suck. Recording in progress. Fabulous. We already opened it. So we're still working on technical things. Why do I keep doing that? Boom. There we go. So now we're going to make this a full screen. And we do that by using that button. Yay! We're going to have a round of applause. All right, so Brooke and I are going to switch places. Alina, you want to come over here so that we're closer when we're chatting? Sure. You have a softer voice than I do. Is that good? Okay.
So if the touchpad doesn't work, use your finger.
Finger or that.
Okay.
Oh, and it's a PDF, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
We'll just see what happens.
Alrighty. Okay, well, today we are doing a presentation, a training on how to talk to assholes. This was created for Parenting Autism United as a hot topic, just because we all run into assholes in our lives.
Yeah.
As a warning, we are going to be cursing this entire presentation. So if you have children around you, remove them, put on headphones. I do have a content warning on the next slide, but it's pretty much written really fancy on the title.
Those Bluetooth AirPod things.
Okay. So content warning, the presentation was designed for adults 18 years and older. We will be talking about mature content and we will be including some profanity, as our title is How to Talk to Assholes. So now we're going to jump into the presentation. Okay. So as parents of children with autism, you guys often encounter situations where others are rude, either intentionally or unintentionally, and maybe have insensitive comments, insensitive topics of conversation towards you and your child. It's important to address these situations with some patience, with some understanding when possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, some people are assholes and they're going to treat you like assholes. And I recommend treating them like an asshole right back. But today we're going to discuss some effective ways to handle assholes and support your children in the process. So we will talk a more kinder approach, and then we will get into just if you're running into an asshole and you have to treat them like that.
First of all, how much fun was it for you putting this together?
It was so much fun that this is a professional settings and I get to keep typing in asshole. I was like, should I put in other bad words or just stick to asshole as my one word?
I think everyone can agree that when you come across somebody who's acting like that, I feel like asshole will cover all of them.
Absolutely. And
let's get this thing up higher so it's not right in your beautiful slides that you made. There we go.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, moving on to the next slide. So to understand assholes, to understand people, you kind of have to understand a little bit about human behavior. So obviously, rude remarks can manifest in various ways, such as insensitive remarks, insensitive questions, just staring, especially staring for a long period of time, avoiding individuals or actively excluding them from social activities or any activities.
Yeah. And I'm tired of people also saying, oh, I just have RBF. Resting bitch face. It's like, you're an adult. You're going to say that to your boss? No, you can have complete control over yourself and your face.
Absolutely. And so we do understand that some people may not understand autism or may have misconceptions about individuals with autism, which can lead to unintentional asshole behavior. We can run into that, we can understand that, and we can educate them.
Yeah.
Some people aren't aware of it. Some people haven't experienced it and don't really know what to do in that type of situation. That's okay. Exactly.
Until it's diagnosed, I told you all about it.
Yeah. We are ourselves, and you'll run across a lot of those assholes. We're just going to say it all night long because now it's going to be how many times family our family.
All right.
Let's see what
Real Tech high definition audio.
You're doing is change to microphone array and will now be used. All right, let's check my microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Look good?
Yeah, I mean, it's picking up on us.
All right,
I don't know.
so
what
let's
the issue
exit
is.
out of there and we can continue recording.
Alrighty,
Or-
besides the technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So like we were talking about, we've all been assholes in certain situations. It could have been when we just didn't know. And once we were educated, we changed our behavior. So absolutely, some people do deserve some grace because they may not know. But when it comes to people who are actively being assholes, have been educated and still continue to be assholes, we'll address that a little bit later. Okay, so yeah, some people are going to act like assholes, and it may be because they have a certain function that they're trying to get a hold of. They may want attention. They may want that back and forth with you. They may just want to argue. They may want something to stop. Maybe an individual is engaging in some type of autistic trait and they don't like it. They may want that trait to stop. They may want more information, or they may be simply born an asshole. So the trick to dealing with assholes, to keep it super simple, is just to do the opposite of what they want.
Nice.
So there are 4 main functions of behavior when it comes to people. We're all going to act and do things for 4 main functions. Either to access something that we want, we're going to do it to escape something that we don't want. We're going to do it because it just feels good to us. It's kind of an automatic feeling. It's a sensory feeling, or it's because we
What's that?
I'm trying to remember what the 4th one is, and right now I'm blanking on it.
Oh,
Access, escape.
so my thought
Yeah.
process is, you weren't born, it's learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, they're showing off.
Mm-hmm.
I always said that stuff to my mom because I thought she was being an asshole to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're just showing off in front of your friends. And they thought that was because I was very young when they said that.
Yeah.
They thought that was hysterical.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like in our situation, a lot of like for the younger kids, the asshole, spawn, are, doing it to be cool, but they've also learned it from their parents. And it's just the fear, I feel, of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their defense mechanism, is to just react that way to keep that person away from them, but also to make them feel superior.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of those tie into your 4th spot, but it'll come to you. And
It will.
bounce out there. This happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We'll be
So typically the main type of asshole you're going to run into when it comes to your child with autism or an individual with autism is that they either want attention, they just want to have that back and forth with you. So they are coming up to you, you've already addressed it and said something along the lines of like explaining the situation. This is my child, this is what they have, this is what they struggle with, this is what you are seeing. And if they're still just egging and asking more questions that are getting just rude, they're insensitive, they're not understanding, or they're just wanting more, ignore them, walk away, leave it as is.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of where this started. When I first started my journey with autism and my son, we joined a group called SAFE, and it was supporting autism and families everywhere. And in their space, they had their information area, and there were these light purple cards that were basically things that we as parents would take with us. And if we were at the grocery store and somebody was giving us a dirty look, we would leave that card that we tore out of the perforated paper that they gave us, and it had autism facts. Please be patient, this, that, and the other. But I basically called them asshole cards. So I would not give them to somebody if they weren't acting like an asshole. And so then I thought, if I were somewhere and somebody gave me a card, I would be so embarrassed. But at the same time, would I even have looked at it or read it? Yeah. I don't know if I would have taken it seriously. However, I was an asshole. So now I would, but that's the thing. That card wouldn't do anything really much more than just say, please be patient with me. And a lot of people deserve a lot more assholeness back to them than that.
So like I said, if they want attention, we're going to give them the opposite of it. If they are making comments about maybe your kiddo who's stimming on a video and it's really loud because they enjoy it really loud, and maybe that's in a public space and someone's being a little bit bitchy about it, Okay, if you're gonna be bitchy about it, I'm gonna turn it up louder. I'm gonna give you the opposite of what you want. So you leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not backing down for you. And so those are gonna be some simple tricks. If you can pick up on what they're wanting more of, give them the complete opposite of it. If that means that you just completely walk away, if that means you become more of an asshole and battle them out with it, that's fine. Get your point across that you have the right and your child has the right to be who they are, wherever they are at all times.
Mm-hmm.
People don't need to change because your child has different needs.
Right.
They need to adjust to that. Your child does not need to change because it is interfering with another person. That's not how this works.
Right.
So meet an asshole, do the exact opposite of what they want. So a more gentle approach is how to respond to people that maybe you don't quite know if they're being an asshole or not. You're not sure. Maybe they asked a question that was a little insensitive, but maybe they just don't know. You're still trying to gauge, are they a complete asshole or are they just don't know. So we're going to obviously try to stay calm. We're going to try to show them what's appropriate. If they ask a question, answer it. If they make a comment about your child and they just want more information, like what device are you using right now? What device are they using to communicate? Tell them it's an AAC device, it's a PEG board, it's whatever my child needs to communicate.
Yeah. My
Answer.
child's brain works differently than
Mhm.
yours, and this is how he communicates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus he is different.
Yes, because that doesn't answer.
That doesn't give
Everyone's
anything.
different in every single way. Educate when possible. Give them facts about autism. Give them some basic information about your child. So if they are stimming on a video really loudly, say, this is what they do. They love it so much that they're going to listen to it really loudly. It's no different than if you like to listen to your music really loudly, but you use headphones. Okay, cool. We all like to listen to our music.
And sometimes I'll say something like, oh, he had such a good day today. We're celebrating.
Yeah, exactly. Just give them a little bit of information. You don't have to break down your medical diagnoses, all the symptoms. Just give them enough of information to educate them on the situation. And hopefully that's enough for them.
Mm-hmm.
But also set your boundaries. If someone is being rude, disrespectful, assert your boundaries. Say that I understand that you're not familiar with autism, but what you're saying is rude. It's not acceptable. And leave it as that. Whatever your boundary is, whatever your personal boundary is, set it, say it, and leave it. It's not an argument. This is my line. You're not crossing it. Also, seek support. Lean on your friends and family members or support groups, people that you trust, people who will let you explain and just vent if you need to. And maybe they'll give you some advice as well. It's always good to have a support group because we're going to run into people who are just rude. We're going to run into people who are just assholes.
And just with seeking support, when you're in a situation where you feel like you're cornered, if you were just to look around and there's other people around, they know what's going on. We all know what's going on, especially and if it's something like that. We're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Look what's happening over there. So let's get closer, And then look at those people. And I've said it before. I turn around, I go, where's my village? Help me out, people.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask a stranger for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done it before.
And if you're in public, you're in a store, employees have to
Help.
protect you in some type of way.
Yeah.
So ask for help. Say, look, this person's aggravating me. They're not leaving me alone. Can you please remove them? Can you do something?
Right.
If you're in public, absolutely ask an employee and see what they can do to help you out. If there's not an employee around, ask for support from a stranger. Like, hey,
You'd be surprised how many people will help. Even
absolutely.
I mean, most of the time, people just don't ask for help, and I think that's a big part of the problem that we have as a society is that we're taught not to ask for help.
Yeah, so absolutely ask for help, seek support in whichever way you can find it. Most people will support you in
We
some
got some
type of
good
way.
stories for the end of this, so
Absolutely.
stay tuned.
And we're also going to want to focus on supporting your child. They are in the situation. They are the ones being targeted. We want to show them that they are safe, that they are loved, that they don't have to be ashamed of how they are acting or what they are doing. They have every right to be who they are.
And when you're reassuring and validating them in that moment, you're almost shoving that shit right down that other person's face because you're modeling how to act appropriately.
Exactly. So reassure, validate your child, let them know how much they're loved, let them know how much they are valued, regardless of other people's opinions. That's a great teaching lesson for any child. If they're a little bit too young to really understand and have that type of conversation, still stand up for them. Children look for safety. If you stand up for them, some strangers coming at your child or just too close, talking too loud, being completely assholes, stand up for them, and that will help you and your child as well. If possible, teach some coping strategies so that way your child can stand up for themselves, advocate for themselves if you're not around.
Yeah, and doing role playing with that is very helpful. You just gotta 9 out of 10 times they are gonna use it back on you, so be careful.
Absolutely. But if they use it on you, they understand the message,
Yeah.
they learned it, they can do it, and they can
Yeah.
do it with you who is a safe person. And they can also do it to a stranger who is just being rude to them.
Yeah.
Another one that's a little bit controversial and everyone has their own opinions on what to do, but it's also a great idea to teach your child about their autism. Just explain what autism is, how it's affecting them, how their autism looks to other people, just so that way children understand there's not something wrong with me. This is what I have. This is how it presents itself. And they understand what's going on rather than questioning, why can't I make friends? Why is everyone staring at me? Why do I cry when there's a loud noise? They have an answer for it.
Well, and one thing about this is just keep in mind that when your child turns, is it 14 by Pennsylvania state law, they then have to be part of their IEP process.
Yes.
And so you got to think about at what point are they going to hear about it and are they going to be okay with it at that point? I mean, that's right when hormones are crazy.
Absolutely. And
so
everyone has a different opinion on when to start it, how to address it, or even if you address it. That's completely independent of parents and their families. Figure out what works best for you. But my advice is to tell them about their autism so they know what's going on and they understand why they have all these supports, why they have these challenges. And it just answers a lot of questions that they may be having that they're not telling other people.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a really great analogy that I love and I wanted to share with everyone if they haven't seen this one before. So imagine if autism, ASD, was described like types of cupcakes. You have some with icing, some with sprinkles, some are chocolate, some are vanilla, but bottom line, they're all cupcakes. And so you have an exchange between two people. But how cupcake is it? What? Like, is it a little bit cupcake or is it severely cupcake? It doesn't work like that. It's a cupcake. So you can take this and explain autism that way. Some people come up to you and say, well, how badly autistic is your child? How severe are they? What level are they? It doesn't matter. They have autism, bottom line. It looks different between individuals. And that can be the different behaviors you see, different challenges, the sprinkles, the chocolate, the vanilla.
I was just trying to explain it to some volunteers that we had here. They were junior high level kids. And I said, you know, a lot of people think that the spectrum is this top and bottom tier, up and down. And I was using my arms, and I'm tall and have long arms, so it worked out great. I go, but the spectrum's really like this. And I turned it to where it looked like I was, you know, on the cross almost. But I said, and then I said, picture me holding all different paint samples all across my arm. I said, everyone's at different levels at any spot on the spectrum. And I said, I don't know if this is visually in this second that I'm introducing autism to all these kids, appropriate. But what I've heard the adult individuals with autism are now saying that it's, I have high support needs or I have low support needs if they're able to convey that.
Yeah.
But I think that when people see a grown man who has no words, no way to communicate, who is severely affected, is what I say, severely affected by autism, has extremely high support needs. That's what there's just no right way to say it, I feel.
Yeah.
And it's with everyone's comfortability. if that's the right word.
Yeah, everyone has a different opinion on how to explain autism, how to rate it, if you want to rate it. So I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is because it depends. Every person understands it a different way. Everyone expresses it a different way.
Yeah.
That's why there's been the push for the infinity symbol to explain autism, because it's a spectrum. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, but it doesn't matter. You're still have autism. Your needs are going to vary, and your needs are going to vary day by day, different aspects of your life.
Yeah.
So this is just a great simple analogy to kind of explain autism to someone who is maybe asking incorrect questions, and maybe this will help them understand it in a way that they can see it, because they've all seen cupcakes. They know.
Oh, I like that. But how cupcake is it?
Yeah.
So, but for me as a baker, I'd be like, well, is it dense, like a muffin, like cornbread, or
it's a cupcake?
Exactly. To me, it's all about the icing. Doesn't matter.
For me, that's what I like. So in conclusion, dealing with assholes requires patience, understanding, and some proactive communication. Explain what's going on, give them information. By educating others, setting boundaries when necessary, and supporting your child, you can navigate these situations effectively. Most importantly, support yourself, support your child. You're going to run into assholes. That's the unfortunate part about being a human and living in this world. But always make sure that you and your child are supported. And remember that you're not alone. There's always people that you can reach out to. And when we create groups, and we have support groups, and we have all these information and all these services that tell us about autism, we can create a more inclusive environment. Autism awareness and acceptance, that's a great time where people are learning and teaching about autism, but that needs to be every day, every month, not just a designated month out of the year.
I've had some dreams about how to handle these situations.
Absolutely. Tell me about them.
So I just want to make sure with your slides before we do anything.
Yeah. So pretty much this conversation is just a conversation topic.
Right. Okay.
We really want to open up the floor to people who have questions, because everyone's going to have a different scenario. Everyone's going to have a different story. There's no one way to talk about an asshole or how to address an asshole. So now we're going to open up the floor and just talk about different scenarios we've all faced. How did you address it? How could we maybe address it better? How could you meet that asshole by being a bigger asshole? We're just going to open it up.
Well, I'll do one, and then Melina will do one, because Melina's here as well. But one of the things that I've dreamt about, and I'm not going to say my story just yet because it's not my story, it's my husband's, but I'll share his story. But one of the ways I've had some very colorful ideas about how to deal with people, because it's so interesting. But ultimately, what works for me is educating my children out loud about how that person's behavior is inappropriate.
Absolutely.
And so I'll say, so you see how she's staring at us right now? That's not really appropriate or nice. And so we want to make sure that we don't do that to anyone, because that would make them feel uncomfortable. And I say it in that loud voice to where everyone around us, including that person, can hear it. And I'll say, similar to what you had said, and this is typically how I respond anymore. And I'll just say something very nice, but in the same time, or something very, snarky, but in the same manner as if you were talking to a child, because that's to me how they're behaving. And so I would say something similar to, oh, we don't make those looks at anyone, do we, guys? That's just, not nice, and, or whatever. Or I might use a colorful, word in front of the kids and just say it was worth it when they repeat it later. But the other ideas that I've kind of thought about or dreamt about was, I mean, this would be excessive, but like air horns, like asshole alert, asshole alert, like the easy button, you hit it and it'd say asshole. So there's been some ideas that I've had. But handing them a card and expecting them to do their own research is not one of them. No. Because I just feel like, if they're an asshole to you, they're probably an asshole to everyone else too. And everyone has that person in their group that embarrasses them in front of people. We all have that person in our family. And for me, I can tell you straight up, it was my mother. And we would go out to dinner, and she was extremely judgmental, but she would take it too far. And she would say to somebody who was possibly from you know, Mexico or anywhere like that, she would say something super snarky. Well, you're legal, right? Like just to put them on the spot and to make them feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't care if you're my mom or, the Pope. That was assholey. And I don't like you right now. So I would call her out on it. And I think that that's something that we miss because we don't want to offend our family or friends.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about children and disabilities, if you want to be judgy about somebody's shoes or something, by all means, go ahead. But when you're talking about a person, you can't do that.
No, especially now with something that they can't control. That's what they were
Exactly.
born with. They can't change anything about it. Why are you going to point it out and make them feel bad about it? They
Yeah.
can't change it.
And
They're-
ladies, compliment each other on your shoes. So.
Absolutely.
Melina, what have you,
Well, first I want to say that in recent years, I've noticed a lot of people are more aware out there. Like, people in shops and stores and things like that seem to be more understanding these days than back in when Hunter was a toddler. But I have a story about how I was an asshole. Before Hunter was diagnosed, there was a family down the street, and I was walking Hunter in the stroller down the street. They had a child with autism. I didn't know that. And so I stopped, and he wanted to see the baby, so he came over, and he started knocking on Hunter's head and said, "Is he made of wood?" And I was like, "Oh my God, get away from my child." And I backed up. I was like, "Oh my God." I just ran off home, like I feel like such a shithead for that. And I guess they've had problems since, all along.
how old was he at that point when
He
Hunter was a baby?
Teenager.
So a teen. Jackson has frightened families before.
Yeah, Hunter has too. Little girls.
And I think we all kind of experience this once we're on the other side of the fence. Not only do we realize how much, I've called myself an asshole because I didn't know anything about the nonprofit world and how much other people need help and how you could be part of helping. But I can say I was an asshole even after the diagnosis when I worked at the Graham. I completely take full responsibility for it. But what happened was it was very difficult to work with some adults on the spectrum because their needs were a little higher and or my understanding just was it was there. So I don't really have an excuse. I was just maybe not taking responsibility for something.
Everybody has strengths
Yeah.
and weaknesses that are. I have a little graphic on my phone. It's kind of like your cupcake analysis, but it's a pie chart with different. Instead of being like
equal pieces,
or anything like that. Some of them are lower, not even on the same circle.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
but you can be an asshole at any point in time in your life, but you can always learn from it and then make sure you never do that again. And it took me stepping away from something that I don't know why I was acting the way I was. I'm not going to blame other people because I was by myself. It was completely my own thing. But I think it was just me not accepting responsibility for something that was so inconsequential. It didn't even matter, but it haunts me to this day still. But if I knew that I ever made a mother and for her child or an individual feel a certain way, I would be absolutely devastated. And
that's the way I feel about this woman who eventually left the family and the son.
So that's the thing. I mean, it's really hard to know and be able to admit that we've been in a part of place like that. But then you have people who are assholes, like you were saying, they were born assholes. And I'm just going to tell the story about my husband going up here to the Spare Time Pizza up in Dallas to get the most wonderful, absolutely delectable, and I'll be ordering it for tomorrow, General Tso's pizza. And it is the best.
I second that.
But even without that pizza, their food is delish. So when you order food, you get a long wait. So what do? You order it early. So when we ordered our food, it was an hour and a half wait. So he waited an hour and 45 minutes and then left to go get the pizza. And he took Jackson with him because he was taking a trip and his son was going with him. That's all there was to it. No, whatever.
You need that experience.
So you walk into the bowling alley bar. This is why it's so important for you to know the setting. It's a bar in a bowling alley, which is where you go to pick up food. It is not unrealistic for a man and his child to be in there to pick up their food that they ordered 2 hours ago that should be ready. He even waited long enough so they wouldn't have to wait, but he can't leave his son in the car. Can't do that. So Jackson, my son, had my husband's phone and was playing a game while they were waiting. So if they're behind on our pizza, do you think they're behind on other people's pizzas? Absolutely. So a bunch of people are sitting there waiting for their food. Everybody's understanding that the food is so good, it is worth the wait, but they're also slammed. And that's the way life goes. So unfortunately, the Wi-Fi or the service in that space was not good at all. So Jackson was having a little trouble accepting that his games weren't working. But they were working through it, and everyone around him was doing this, the smiley faces, like, oh, it's okay, that type of thing. Because this was a couple of years ago. So he's like 7, 8 years old, not even. So a gentleman walks in, educated, you would think, because he's wearing a suit, pulled in a fancy car. So he's probably got a decent job, which you would assume you're educated for. And this guy said if he cracked something like, hey, bud, if you can't control your kid, why don't you take him outside? So you're in a bar in a bowling alley picking up pizza. You haven't been here waiting this whole time, but guess who has been? All these other people. And guess who? My husband is not going to take that kind of crap. So he turned around and he said, "The fuck did you just say to me?" Mm-hmm. And I asked him later, by the way, I was like, was he a big guy? And he was like, yeah. So this is a bigger guy. And this guy doubled down. He said, if you can't control your kid, and my husband said, as soon as he started talking back to him, because they were puffing up to each other and all that stuff, this little bartender lady went all the way around the bar. She was on her way. But Tim's like, why don't you, I don't know what they exactly said. And I honestly think that men black out when this happens, because I know I would too. So he doesn't remember what he said, but they were saying some nice things back and forth to each other. But the entire bar stood up for my son and for Tim, and this little lady kicked this guy out and said, he's like, I already paid for my pizza. And they said, tough luck, see you later. And they kicked him out. And that is how you treat an asshole. Mm-hmm. When he probably had a shit day. Who knows what happened? Who knows? Somebody could have died in his family. Who knows? The point is, no matter what's going on in your life, you don't treat other people that way. Mm-hmm. But if my husband had not done what he did, he wouldn't have been able to live with himself. So there's different levels. Obviously, if some old lady or some young lady, whoever it is, says something to me in a grocery store, I'm not going to turn to her and say, the fuck did you just say to me? That's not how I react. We all have our own version of how we do things. Men are definitely more like that. But another common thing is for us as the family members to just pack it all in and leave. We would have paid for our pizza, but somebody said something snarky, so we threw our kid in the car and we left crying. And that's a typical reaction. And then we stop at McDonald's again. And that will never happen again, where I leave. And it hasn't happened in a long time because I've been in the position where I'm in, where I've been supporting other families and whatnot. But if if it is so much that you can't take it and you have to leave, then leave. You do what's best for you. But just know that your community is there for you. And unless your child is hitting or destroying property or being just extremely inappropriate, there's no reason for you to go anywhere. I mean, in my mind. What else have you experienced?
I would like to keep that in mind. Oh, the looks from people that seem to say, you know, he is a little old for what he's doing, or, you know, the family, I guess I can tell the story about sister and
It's up to you. You don't have to tell us it's
She
from your
could-
sister-in-law.
this was totally understandable. Yeah, I could have not said that. She,
cutouts.
she
I'm not good at that.
Hunter's cousin wanted just his friends from school at his birthday party. I was like, that's cool.
Hey,
You
it's
know?
your party.
He wasn't inviting cousins from the other side of the family either.
Right.
Just friends from school.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool, because we don't want him to get made fun of. And then he's mad. And then I was fuming, and the feud has gone on since then.
Wait,
Because it
so
was the first time.
who, her son or your son, wanted a party with just his friends from school?
Person.
Oh. So,
Did I mess that all up?
yeah.
Tell
A little
the wrong
bit.
way?
Yeah.
Her son, Hunter's cousin, wanted a birthday party with just his friends from school, but he didn't want. He added on the end of that he didn't want Hunter to go and get made fun of because his friends aren't as kind as they are. First of all, Hunter wouldn't even realize people were making fun of him. And
Well, you should choose better friends, first of all.
that was my first thing, you know. She goes to church every Sunday. What are they teaching her kid in CCD class? You know.
So if you wanted a party with just friends from school, that's fine.
Totally fine with that.
Now, adding on the making fun,
The extra comments unnecessary.
and that I feel like the extra comments. So in my respect, I'd be like, you know, all you had to do was say this, but now I know how you really feel.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
And guess what?
And
My
it's
own
the
sister
first
defended
time I
herself
saw
to the
him
ground.
that way.
Using, you know,
Yeah.
but that's unfortunate, and it happens in families all around. And frankly, you don't have to put kids on display. Every now and then I, you know, show kids and other adults how smart Jackson is with his
You should.
special interests, but
They all do.
sometimes I
With their
know.
sports and their
Absolutely.
So we're proud of him because he knows that. But you know, sometimes I'll say, "What's the capital of Pennsylvania?" And he'll just say, "I don't know," because he doesn't want to answer what I'm asking him to, even though we all know he knows. But it does feel like we're sometimes putting our kids on, like, show them what you can do.
Yeah.
It's almost like every day's a talent show. But these people who are in our community, a lot of them say, "Well, I was raised this way." It's like, so are you still going to pay 20 or 50 cents for a gallon of gas?
That's not an
You were
excuse.
raised on that. That's not, no, times change.
Exactly.
So it's really, every situation is so different. Every kid is so different. If the biggest things that families with autism have to do is be prepared when you go anywhere to help your child regulate themselves in a way that's appropriate for anywhere. If your child doesn't like to wear clothing when they get home, that's fine, but they have to wear clothing when they go out. I mean, that's basic. And that's the thing. If it's a basic thing and everyone's safe and everyone's fine, fucking cares.
Amen.
But at that point, I know I say that, but we all know when you're in the moment, it feels,
Yeah.
my face gets red.
Everyone's looking at you.
Yeah. So honest to God, it's almost worth practicing. And even if you have to have a couple of drinks to practice, that's even more fun. And we could have a practice night here at the office if we want to. Again, no kids allowed. But we can do that on a parent night as practice how to talk to mean people. And we'll just do modeling. I mean, we can use therapeutic terms if we need to.
What are you looking at?
But the best way to practice is to keep going out.
Yes.
So instead of going to the grocery store when you need to get a small order, which is now a $300 order, go when you don't need anything and you're just, let's go get you a treat, but let's not stop at the gas station. Let's practice going into the grocery store. And then to keep your child engaged. So, and this will also keep your mind off of other people. You know, I can only imagine the amount of people who I can't see or who are so good at not sharing. They might be thinking it, but they're not sharing it. You know, change their mind by showing them how they should be interacting with your child and you as a parent. So whenever I'm there, I just narrate everything that I'm doing. I'm like, okay, now we're at the belt. We're going to check out. So you should put all these things on this super cool conveyor belt because everyone loves the conveyor belt. And then it's like, all right, let's play a game. You get to be a grocery store worker today. So let's scan all these items, find all the barcodes. Come on, you can do it. But it's really hard at those self-checkouts because the lady starts talking too fast. And then it's like, please put your item in the bag. And they never understand. They don't understand that you have to like wiggle the bag to make it seem like you put something in there that weighs like a feather. And
or if the thing starts blinking and someone
so but the other aspect of that is if I can ever go to a lane where there is a worker, I choose we will wait for that lane. But I just narrate the whole thing. I say, Jackson, all right, in a few minutes you're gonna have to pay the lady, pay the guy, whoever it is, pay the worker. And we're not gonna touch pronouns right now. So we'll do that. And then they kind of realize, oh, you know, they see it. So and then it's like, okay, let's go home where all the nice things are, like where all the nice people can be. We're going to have a great night because we're awesome and whatever it is. So that's kind of how I do things because look, we're not fighting anyone, but tell you what, that guy at the bowling alley, greatest thing that I would have said is, you don't really want to be on the news for getting your ass kicked for making fun of a kid with autism, do you? You really want to go down this path right now? Because if you're on the news for doing this, if you get, you're an adult, your name is getting out there.
Yep.
You could, I mean, people get canceled for much less, much less. So, I mean, there is that repercussion of social media these days. But as a family, you have to be there for your children, like you said. Don't wait to go home and be a troll on social media. Take care of it right then and there because that's who we are. We're moms and we're bosses. Badass bitches. A friend of mine used to call it Babs. Badass bitches. Yeah. But every time I think of Babs, I think of Looney Tunes and Babs is funny. So that's for me. It's like, no, not really. You're just a pink bunny.
I think of Barbara Streisand.
But yeah, so if anyone, I am interested in stories that people have experienced and they can be anonymous and but we would like to hear your stories and in the comments. This will be on YouTube and on Facebook.
We won't judge you if you're an asshole.
Judgment-free zone.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we've all been an asshole.
Exactly.
And we can learn from it though. And then at the same token, you can be good and then become an asshole.
Yeah,
so
judge other assholes and how you react. I avoid the situation as much as possible to avoid assholes. So,
but how do you avoid it? You just stay at home.
Yep. I wait until my husband comes home.
I'm shaking my fist at her.
Store.
I'm shaking my fist at her, guys. The only way to help him become better at it is to keep taking them.
Yeah, I'm starting to now. He's calmed down quite a bit where he doesn't reach for everything on the shelves, so I can take him to the store and he knows not to touch.
One of the things that took me a really long time to understand anywhere we go is that if Jackson takes something off or does something, I make him pick it up. I make him put it back. And I don't care if it takes 10 hours. That's the difference. Beforehand, I would hurry, I would pick it up, I would put it back up. So basically, I'm just picking up after this tornado that's going through the aisles or wherever. But anymore, I'm like, nope, stop. Whatever is going on in your head, this is not going to happen this whole time. And we're going to pick this, stop it now, and we're going to be done with it. And you're going to be the one that cleans it up, not me. I don't know if that works every time, but I think it,
I try really hard to get Hunter to clean up after himself. And
You
that's
do a great
another
job.
way I avoid situations is that, like, if we're here for an extended period of time, he'll have everything.
Oh, I know.
And I gotta go find everything he took out.
All the kids are so fast.
I know.
And as
it's
adults,
amazing.
they're even faster. I tell you what, he grabbed that calligraphy pen and he was using it. And hey, nobody else is using it. So I'm like, all right, but that's like hardcore ink. So we just have to make our space ready for it.
Yeah.
And if our space is ready for it, but he got it all over his hands because remember, he had to go wash his hands many times. And that's the thing. If I was prepared, which I know nothing about it because for me it was kind of visual, and it's something on my to-do list is learn calligraphy with a quilling pen. But for me, ink dries up. You got to use it. But I was glad he was using it, and then I'm learning from him even because he had to keep washing his hands. And then I learned that, oh look, ink comes off of my desktop. So there we go. But if it hadn't,
hairspray.
well, but guess what? I've painted the top of the other desk over there because there were marks on it that we couldn't get. Life isn't about a clean desktop. He got to explore something that was cool to him. It was cool to me, but he did it in a manner that was very appropriate. Other than he didn't ask first. Outside of that, though,
he never will ask
but that's the
first.
thing. In the grand scheme of things,
That's
not that big of a deal.
Yeah, gotta work on that.
But we all learned something that day, and I learned how not to get ink on my hands when I'm using a quill pen that I don't know how to use yet to write with.
And I learned to keep an eye on him until I'm settled.
Oh no, his interests are all over the place.
I know, he won't sit with anything for more than 5 seconds or minutes.
Clay.
Yeah.
So,
let's take another call.
I know, right? From an outsider's perspective, outsider as in you do not have a child with autism. That's the only thing that's different here. For me, it comes across the passerbys, the people who are around and aren't saying anything. So if you were in a grocery store where somebody was like, our societal thing is to mind our own business. But if it was a kid that you knew clearly had autism, what would you do?
So it's not professional of me, but I get angry and I get very defensive about kiddos. Even if they're
You're
old
human.
client, if there's someone that, sometimes you just know you're around it enough that you can say, okay, there's something going on with this kiddo. They may need some extra
But even if
support.
it wasn't, they are a child.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't matter if I see something, I do say something.
Yeah.
Even if that is me inserting myself in a situation. Okay, cool. If they needed that support, I gave it to them. If they don't need it, they can tell me to fuck off and I will fuck right off.
Yeah.
But I feel the need that I can say something, and what's gonna happen? Nothing. They may get sassy with me. Okay, cool. I'll get sassy right back. Like, what are you gonna do?
The one thing I hear a lot is when somebody, like, say I said something and then somebody's like upset about it. And then, well, not me, just a person. And then they say, well, I'm never going to do that again. And it was like, well, hold the phone. If you see, it's a whole thing for New York. If you see something, say something.
Yeah.
However, when we're talking about with children and, I think the cancel culture with, moms has been dead now that, social media has let everyone do what they do. But, I don't know. it's been a while because I handle things the way that I do,
Mhm.
that I don't, but you don't know when those situations are gonna arise, like my husband didn't.
Mhm.
I guess I kind of got in the habit of avoiding assholes and all the social outings and things like that because I just got in the habit of it. Lost my train of thought. Well, living way out in the country for one thing, but to avoid the assholes and things like that, it was pretty easy. You know,
It is easy, but if they're
and
allowed
he's
to be
an
an
eloper, that was my point. So
Yeah.
I said, well, he's gonna run away from me if I take him out, so I'm not gonna take him.
Yeah. But my also thought is if people are allowed to be an asshole in public, my kid, my client, whoever is allowed to be themselves. Like if you're
Oh,
able
yeah.
to show your ass and act a fool, okay, we're gonna do it too.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when it really comes down to it, as long as somebody isn't screaming profanity and, it's the opposite. They would rather, I know, but they would rather your child be a zombie than be a 19-year-old who loves Princess Peach.
Yeah.
They would rather my son say anything and everything about a sporting activity than say how much he loves Sesame Street, say he was 23 years old.
Yeah.
And the thing is, nobody makes fun of you for liking, the Kardashians or 90 Day Fiance or reality TV in general, or the music that you like. And if they do, guess what? You don't care. But these are kids with developmental disabilities and adults with, developmental disabilities and diagnoses that are who knows what. The motto and the thing of the day is just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just be a nice person, be good.
Or a Karen. I use that. I don't like the term, but it's there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
because Hunter called me.
I feel so bad for anyone who has been born with the name Karen.
Yeah, I know, right?
I feel so bad because I do know a lot of very nice Karens. But no, thank you so much for putting this, together and again having these conversations. And sorry if you listened to this and did not go through the disclaimers. If you poked through and but these are meant for you to listen to when the kids go to bed, when you're in the bathroom or the car by yourself. And or throw on those captions, who knows? And I'm hoping this recorded because we had some serious technical difficulties. So if it didn't, then we just had a good night for ourselves.
Exactly.
So, but thank you again. The stuff here is to meet with Brooke and via email. You can throw out some questions for things and she'll get back to you. You can always go to parentingautismunited.org to our website and our Facebook page and things like that. But the next one that we want to tackle once Brooke gets settled in her move to the Midwest is going to be for kids and teens how to handle bullies, I think, because we can't call them assholes
Yeah.
at that point.
We're PG for that.
Hit 18.
Yeah, so it would be geared towards kids about how to handle situations in school, how to handle situations at camp, because camp is a very lax setting and your superior is between 16 and 19 years old. So they don't even know how to handle things a lot of times. So that's something that we'll be working on for this year, hopefully. And but it is in the works. We have a nice long list of things. But basically, yeah, don't be a dick.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be a stranger.
Oh, and don't be a stranger. Thank you, Melina. That was great. We're gonna. All right, we're gonna see what happens here. Oh yeah, it's great. We figured out the casting. Let's see. Stop share. Hi.